"Don't touch me," she begged. But when her skin glowed, the human couldn't look away. The prison camp was silent, but not peaceful. The silence was heavy, filled with hunger, fear, and the sound of chains that scraped against stone whenever someone moved. Rows of prisoners sat in the dirt, their faces down, their bodies weak from long days of work and long nights of cold. The alien guards stood tall with their weapons glowing, watching everything with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Among the prisoners sat a human. His name was Daniel, and he had been captured 2 months ago during a border raid. He worked like the rest, lifting stones, digging trenches, dragging heavy carts. His body was tired, but his spirit was not broken. Unlike the aliens, Daniel's eyes still searched, still questioned, still refused to surrender. It was in that place of dust and pain that Daniel noticed her. She was small, wrapped in dirty cloth that covered almost her entire body. Her face was half hidden under a hood. Unlike the others, she did not speak. She kept her head low, trembling whenever the guards passed by. Daniel had seen broken prisoners before, but there was something strange about her. She never ate with the others. She never lifted her eyes. And when the guards shouted, she shrank back as if their voices burned her. One night, when the moons were dim and the guards were patrolling far from the tents, Daniel heard a sound. It was a whisper. He turned his head and saw her sitting close, her eyes shining faintly in the dark. Her voice was trembling, almost broken. "I'm not clean," she whispered. Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" She shook her head quickly, as if afraid even to speak. Her hands clutched the edge of her cloth tighter. "I'm not clean," she repeated, her voice smaller this time, almost a breath. The words chilled him. In this camp, people spoke of disease, of poison, of curses. But her tone was not sick, it was fearful, as if telling him a secret that could kill her. Daniel leaned closer. "Not clean? Are you sick? Hurt?" Her head moved side to side again. "No, worse." Before he could ask more, a guard's shadow moved across the tents, and she went silent, her body stiff like stone. Daniel turned away too, pretending to rest. But her words sank deep into his mind. The next day, while carrying heavy stones, Daniel noticed her stumble. She almost fell, and for a second her cloth slipped. Just a second. But in that second, he saw something that froze his breath. Her skin, where the cloth had moved, was not like the others. It glowed, not bright like fire, but faint, like soft lines of light moving under the surface of her skin. Strange symbols, curved and sharp, alive with power. Then the cloth covered it again, and no one else seemed to notice that Daniel carried the stone, his heart beating fast. He had never seen anything like it. That night, he found her again, sitting apart from the rest. He spoke softly, careful not to draw attention. "What are you hiding?" Her hands trembled. For a moment, she did not answer. Then, with eyes wet from fear, she whispered again, "I told you, I'm not clean." Daniel shook his head. "That doesn't explain. I saw something." Her breath caught. "You saw the marks." He nodded slowly. Tears slid down her cheeks. "Then you must kill me, please, before they see, before they know." Daniel stared at her in shock. Kill her? She was only a girl, weaker than him, trembling like a frightened bird. Yet her voice was firm, desperate. "Why?" he asked. "Because if they find out, if they see what is under this cloth," her voice broke. She looked around, then leaned closer, so close he could feel her breath. "They will not only kill me, they will kill everyone near me. Even you." Daniel felt a shiver crawl through him. He looked at her wrapped figure, at the trembling hands holding the cloth so tightly as if her life depended on it. Maybe it did, before he could speak. A loud shout came. The guards were walking between the tents, checking every prisoner. The girl pulled the cloth tighter and bent her head. Daniel did the same, pretending to be asleep, but he could not close his eyes. Her words, repeated in his head again and again. I'm not clean. What did it mean? What were those glowing marks? Why did she beg for death instead of protection? The night grew colder, the guards passed. The camp fell back into its heavy silence. Daniel finally turned to her. What's your name? He asked softly. Her answer was so quiet, he almost didn't hear it. Lyra. She looked at him then, just for a moment. Her eyes were unlike any he had seen before. Silver, filled with fear, but also something deeper. Something ancient. Daniel knew one thing as he looked back at her. This girl, this prisoner, this trembling voice in the night, she was hiding a secret bigger than all of them. And now he was part of it. The cloth moved slightly as she shifted. And for the smallest moment, the morning came with dust and hunger. Prisoners moved like shadows, carrying stones and wood under the harsh eyes of the alien guards. Daniel's body worked, but his mind stayed on one thing. Lyra. The girl's whisper haunted him. I'm not clean. Her trembling eyes, her glowing skin, the strange marks that looked alive under the cloth, he could not forget. She worked beside him now, carrying smaller loads, her steps weak but steady. The guards never looked at her too closely. It was strange. They shouted at others, struck them with electric rods, but with Lyra, they kept distance, as if afraid. Daniel noticed it. That fear, it was not mercy. It was something else. When night returned, he found her again in the shadows of the broken wall. She sat with her knees pulled up, arms wrapped tight around her body. Her hood slipped a little, showing silver strands of hair in the moonlight. He sat down near her. Tell me the truth. She stiffened. No, you don't want to hear it. Daniel leaned closer. I already saw it, the marks. I'm part of this now, whether you want it or not. Her lips trembled. For a long moment she stayed silent, her breath quick and shallow. Then she lifted the cloth from her arm. Only for a second. Daniel's eyes widened. Glowing symbols ran along her skin, curling lines like fire frozen in place, moving faintly as if alive. They were not random, they were patterns, ancient, purposeful. What are they? He whispered. Her voice was soft, broken. A curse. A gift, both. Daniel frowned. Explain. She pulled the cloth back over her skin quickly, shaking her head. Long ago, before I was born, my people made a pact with something greater. It marked my bloodline. These symbols are part of me. They cannot be removed. Daniel felt his chest tighten. And the guards, do they know? She shook her head. Not yet. If they see, I will not live until morning. Daniel looked toward the alien soldiers standing near the fire. Their eyes were sharp, but their bodies shifted uneasily. Like hunters camping near a beast they could not control. They fear you, Daniel said quietly. Lyra's silver eyes filled with tears. They fear what I carry. My blood can heal, but it can also burn. I am not supposed to exist. The Empire hunts my kind. If they find me, they will take me apart, piece by piece, to learn why I still live. Her voice cracked, and Daniel felt a weight in his chest. She was young, fragile, but beneath the fear there was something more. Power, he whispered back. That's why you told me to kill you. She nodded slowly. Better to die hidden than to be found. For the first time, Daniel felt torn. She was asking for death, but he saw in her eyes the same fire he carried inside. She wanted to live, even if her words begged otherwise. I won't kill you, he said firmly. Her head jerked toward him, shocked. Then you will die with me. Daniel almost smiled, though there was no humor in it. Maybe, but I'm not the kind of man who watches someone burn alone. Her eyes softened, but fear remained. Before she could answer, a noise broke the silence. Heavy boots. The guards. 2 of them walked into the shadows, scanning the prisoners with glowing rods. Daniel quickly bent low, pretending to sleep. Lyra pulled her hood deep, hiding her face. One guard stopped near them. His weapon buzzed as he aimed a light at Lyra. She froze. The rod hummed louder, its beam brushing the edge of her cloth. For a second, Daniel thought it would slip, that her marks would shine out, that everything would end. His heart pounded, but another guard called out, distracted, and the soldier turned away. The danger passed. Daniel exhaled slowly. But he knew this would not last. When the guards left, he leaned close. You can't stay here. They will see you one day. Her whisper was bitter. Where can I go? There is no place for me. Not in their world. Not in yours. Daniel's jaw tightened. He looked at her glowing eyes and thought of something he had almost forgotten. Hope. Then we make a place, he said. She looked at him, disbelief and longing mixing on her face. No one had ever said those words to her before. No one had dared. The night grew colder. The camp was silent again. But Daniel knew this silence would not last. Secrets like hers could not stay hidden. And when they came for her, he would have to choose. Protect her, or die beside her. The next day began with shouts. The alien guards woke the prisoners early, forcing them to drag heavy carts of stone across the sharp ground. The sun was pale, but the air was hot, choking with dust. Daniel walked with aching muscles, but his eyes were always searching for Lyra. She moved in the crowd, her hood low, her steps weak. Every time her cloth slipped even a little, Daniel's heart jumped. Afraid the glowing marks might be seen, the guards were restless. They shouted louder than usual. They searched the prisoners' tents more than once, throwing broken bowls and torn blankets into the dirt. Something was making them uneasy. Daniel could feel it. That night, when the camp grew still, Daniel found Lyra again. She was sitting near the broken wall, her hands holding her knees, rocking slowly as if trying to keep herself calm. You can't stay like this, Daniel said quietly. Her silver eyes lifted to him, shining in the dark. There is no choice. There's always a choice, Daniel said. You hide until they find you. Then what? They'll take you. They'll kill you. You know it. Her voice cracked. And if I run, they will still find me. You don't understand. My blood shines like a light. They can track it. There's no escape. Daniel looked at her trembling hands, then at the alien guards near the fire. He thought of his own capture, of the soldiers dragging him across the dirt, of his home far away. He thought of freedom. I have to choose, he whispered. Lyra blinked. Choose what? Whether I stay silent and let them take you, or stand with you and fight. Her lips parted in shock. You would die. Daniel gave a small smile. I'd rather die with purpose than live as their slave. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The night air was heavy with fear and something unspoken between them. Then Lyra leaned closer, her voice shaking. You don't understand. If they discover me, they will not just kill us. They will kill everyone in this camp, every prisoner, every guard. They will burn this whole place to ash to hide what I am. Daniel's chest tightened. He had seen the cruelty of the alien empire before, but the weight of her words made it real. Her secret was bigger than her, bigger than him. It was a danger to them all, but he also saw her eyes pleading, terrified, yet full of a quiet strength. She wanted to live. She just didn't believe she was allowed. No, Daniel said firmly. I won't give you to them, not now. Not ever. Lyra shook her head, tears running down her face. Then we are already dead. Before Daniel could answer, a horn sounded across the camp. Harsh, sharp, cutting the silence. The prisoners lifted their heads in fear. The guards moved. Quickly, weapons raised. Daniel felt his stomach twist. Something was happening. The soldiers marched through the rows, pulling prisoners out of line. Their leader, taller than the rest, shouted in his alien tongue. Daniel didn't understand all the words, but he caught enough. Search, examine. Mark, they were hunting. The guards carried glowing rods, scanning prisoners one by one. If the rod touched cloth or skin, it glowed red for sickness, blue for clean. Daniel's heart pounded. They were looking for Lyra. The line of soldiers grew closer. Prisoners cried out as rods burned against their arms. Some fainted. The guards showed no care. Lyra stood frozen beside Daniel, clutching her hood, her body shaking. Her whisper came again, broken and small. "This is the end." Daniel's hand tightened on her wrist. "Not yet." The guards moved closer. One stepped before them, lifting his rod. The weapon buzzed with energy, the light glowing brighter as it neared Lyra's shoulder. Her cloth shifted. Just a little. A faint glow flickered beneath. Daniel's breath stopped. If they saw it now, everything would end. In that instant, Daniel made his choice. He moved. With a sharp push, he stumbled forward into the guard, making the rod slip. It struck his own arm instead. The weapon flared red, burning his skin. Daniel gritted his teeth, letting out a cry of pain. The guards shouted, dragging him back, thinking he had stepped out of line. The soldier hit him across the chest, knocking him to the ground, but the rod had moved away from Lyra. The glow beneath her cloth stayed hidden. She stared at him. The prison camp never truly slept. Even in the dead of night, the air carried the sound of marching boots, the buzzing of alien rods, and the groans of prisoners dreaming of freedom they would never have. Daniel lay on the cold ground, his arm still warm where Lyra had healed him. The glow of her touch haunted him. It was proof she carried something beyond reason, beyond science. And it was proof that the guards would kill for it. Lyra sat a short distance away, her hood pulled low. She did not speak, but Daniel could feel her fear in the silence between them. When the horn blew suddenly, the night shattered. Prisoners bolted awake. Guards stormed through the rows, shouting in their harsh language. Floodlights snapped on, covering the camp in blinding white. Daniel pushed himself up, heart pounding. Something was wrong. The soldiers weren't just checking prisoners, they were hunting. And then he saw it. The commander walked into the camp holding a device. It pulsed with red light, sending out waves that made the ground vibrate. The prisoners trembled. Even the guards looked uneasy. Lyra's head dropped lower, her arms gripping her body tightly. The device was reacting. It was searching for her. Daniel's throat went dry. If the light reached her, if it revealed the glow beneath her cloth, there would be no more hiding. The commander barked an order. Guards began forcing prisoners into a line. The device pulsed stronger with every step. Lyra whispered, her voice shaking. "They know." Daniel's jaw clenched. He grabbed her wrist. "Then we don't wait." She looked at him, terrified. "What are you?" But he didn't give her time. When the guards reached their row, Daniel acted. He surged forward, slamming his shoulder into the nearest soldier. The alien stumbled, dropping his rod. Daniel snatched it up, the weapon humming in his grip. The camp erupted. Guards shouted. Prisoners screamed. The commander roared, pointing toward Daniel and Lyra. "Run!" Daniel shouted. For a heartbeat, Lyra froze. Then her legs moved on instinct. She ran, her cloth flapping behind her. Daniel followed, striking another guard across the chest with the stolen rod. The alien collapsed, sparks flying from his armor. They sprinted through the camp. Floodlights swept over them. Soldiers gave chase. Blaster fire lit the night sky, scorching the ground at their heels. "Faster!" Daniel shouted, pulling Lyra toward the edge of the compound. They reached the broken wall, the same place they had whispered in secret nights before. But now it was no secret. Soldiers were closing in from every side. Lyra's hood slipped as she climbed. For the first time, Daniel saw her fully in the light. Silver hair spilled down her back. Her skin glowed with markings alive like fire. The guards froze, fear flashing in their eyes. "She's the one!" One shouted. Daniel's heart raced. They would shoot her down any second. But then something happened. As a soldier raised his weapon, Lyra turned, her eyes wide with terror. The marks on her skin flared brighter. A wave of light exploded outward, throwing the guards backward as if struck by an invisible storm. Their weapons crackled and died. The camp shook. Prisoners gasped. The commander roared in fury. Daniel stared at her, stunned. She looked at her glowing hands as if seeing them for the first time. "I didn't mean," she began. "Don't stop," Daniel cut in. "Do it again, if you have to." They scrambled over the wall and landed on the other side. The desert stretched before them, dark and endless. Broken machines and rusted towers littered the ground, ruins from an old war. "Where?" Lyra panted. Daniel scanned the wreckage. Then he saw a half-buried transport ship, rusted but intact. "There." He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward it. Blaster fire lit the night again. Soldiers were climbing the wall, chasing them. Into the desert, they reached the transport, its metal shell cracked but its cockpit still intact. Daniel yanked the hatch. It screeched open. Inside, the controls were broken, wires hanging loose. "It's dead," Daniel muttered. Lyra stepped inside, her glowing hands brushing the panels. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship hummed weakly, lights flickering. "You can make it work?" Daniel asked. She shook her head. "Not for long, maybe for escape." That was all they needed. The hatch slammed shut as Daniel jumped inside. Outside, soldiers surrounded the wreck, pounding on the hull. The commander's voice roared. "Bring me the marked one alive. Kill the human." The ship trembled as Lyra pressed her glowing hands against the controls. Symbols ran up. Her arms, brighter and brighter. Sparks burst from the console. Daniel strapped himself into the seat, grabbing the controls. "Hold on." The stolen transport ship rattled as it flew low across the desert. Its engines coughed, struggling to stay alive. Sparks popped from the broken console, the smell of burning wires filling the cockpit. Daniel gripped the controls with steady hands, but sweat dripped from his forehead. The ship was weak. At any moment, it could fall. Beside him, Lyra sat slumped against the seat, her silver hair tangled, her chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. The glow on her skin had faded, leaving only faint traces of the markings. She looked fragile, smaller than before. "Stay with me," Daniel said, his voice tight. Her eyes fluttered open. "I can't hold it long. The power burns me." Daniel glanced at her, worry tightening his chest. "You saved us. That's what matters." She gave a small, broken laugh. "Saved us for now. They will chase. They always chase." Daniel didn't argue. She was right. He could almost feel the weight of the Empire behind them, searching, hunting. But in this moment, with the desert stretching endless below, they were free. The ship coughed again, then dropped suddenly. Daniel pulled hard on the controls. The engine screamed, then steadied. Barely. "We need to land," he muttered. Lyra's weak hand touched the panel. A faint light spread under her fingers, calming the sparks, keeping the ship alive a little longer. Daniel stared at her in silence. She wasn't just carrying strange marks. She was connected to something bigger, something powerful enough to scare an empire. Minutes later, he found a canyon deep in the desert, its rocks sharp and red, hidden from the sky. He lowered the ship carefully, the thrusters kicking up storms of dust as they landed hard on the canyon floor. The engine sputtered, then went dark. Silence. Daniel leaned back, exhaling. His arms shook from tension. He looked at Lyra. She had collapsed again, her head tilted against the seat. He unbuckled quickly, moving to her side. "Lyra?" Her skin was cold. He touched her wrist. Weak pulse. She had given too much of herself to the ship. No, stay with me," Daniel whispered. He carried her out of the transport into the canyon's shadow. The night air was cool, and the stars above burned bright, untouched by smoke or war. He laid her gently on a flat stone. For a while, she didn't move. Then her lips parted. "You should leave me." Daniel frowned. "Not happening." Her silver eyes opened slowly, shimmering in the starlight. "I am not safe, Daniel. Not for you. Not for anyone. You saw what I am. I'm not clean. My blood, it destroys." He sat beside her, silent for a moment. Then he said softly, "I saw you heal. Me. I saw you bring this ship alive when it should have been scrap. That's not destruction. That's life." Tears slid from the corners of her eyes. "You don't understand. The power inside me, it eats me. Every time I use it, I lose something. A piece of myself. One day, there will be nothing left." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Then we'll make sure that day doesn't come." She turned her face toward him, disbelief shining in her eyes. "Why do you care? You barely know me." Daniel leaned back against the rock, staring at the stars. His voice was quiet. "Because when I was captured, I thought I'd die in chains. Thought I'd rot in that camp until I forgot what freedom even felt like. But then I met you, and suddenly, I had a reason to fight again." Lyra stared at him, her breath trembling. No one had ever said such words to her. For so long, she had been hunted, hidden, whispered about like a curse. Yet this human, this stubborn, broken man spoke to her as if she was more than her marks, more than her blood. Her hand moved slowly, reaching for his burned arm, the one she had healed. Her fingers traced the place where her light had touched. "Him. You risked your life for me," she whispered. Daniel looked at her, his eyes steady. "And I'd do it again." For a moment, the canyon was silent, the stars watching like witnesses. Between them, something fragile but strong began to grow. But peace did not last. From the distance, faint lights blinked across the desert sky. Ships, scouts. The Empire had not lost their trail. Daniel cursed under his breath. He stood quickly, scanning the horizon. "They're coming." Lyra sat up weakly, her glow faint but returning. Fear filled her eyes, but there was no surprise. "I told you, they always chase." Daniel turned to her. "Then let them. Because this time we'll be ready." He looked at the broken transport. It wouldn't fly far, but maybe it could hide them. Maybe it could fight with her power. He helped her to her feet, his arms steady around her shoulders. Lyra whispered again, softer than before, "I'm not clean." Daniel met her eyes, firm and unshaken. "Then stay dirty with me." For the first time, a faint smile touched her lips. And in the canyon was quiet, but not for long. Daniel stood at the edge, scanning the desert horizon. He saw them, dark shapes gliding across the sky, their lights blinking like hungry eyes. The Empire was coming. Behind him, Lyra sat against the rock, her breathing slow, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the night. She had given too much of herself to keep the ship alive. Daniel knew she couldn't keep running forever. "We fight here," he said firmly. Lyra lifted her head. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. "Fight? Daniel, there are too many. We can't." Daniel crouched beside her, meeting her eyes. "Then we don't fight alone. You have power, I have will. Together we can make them bleed." She looked at him, torn between fear and hope. "If I use it again, it will burn me. It will take more of me." "Then let it take me too," Daniel said. "But don't hide anymore. If they catch us, they'll tear you apart." "I won't let that happen." Her lips parted, her breath shaking. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she nodded slowly. "All right, together." The sound of engines roared louder. The Empire's ships descended into the canyon floodlights, sweeping across the rocks. Soldiers poured out, weapons glowing. Their commander shouted orders in a harsh tongue, pointing toward the broken transport. "They know we're here." Daniel muttered. He grabbed a rusted metal rod from the ground and held it like a weapon. It was nothing against their blasters. But he stood ready anyway. The first soldier stepped closer, his weapon raised. Daniel's grip tightened, but then Lyra moved. She rose to her feet, her hood falling back, her silver hair glowing under the lights. The marks on her skin began to shine, faint at first, then stronger, flowing like rivers of fire beneath her flesh. The soldiers froze. Fear spread across their faces. They had found their target. Now, Daniel whispered. Lyra raised her hands. Light burst from her skin, flooding the canyon with brilliance. The ground shook. The air cracked. Soldiers stumbled back as a wave of power exploded outward, throwing them to the ground. The commander roared, shouting for them to fire. Dozens of blasters lit up, beams cutting through the dust and light. Daniel lunged forward, swinging the metal rod, knocking one soldier aside. Another beam scorched the rock near his head. He ducked, rolled, then slammed the rod into another guard's chest. Beside him, Lyra's light flared brighter. A soldier aimed directly at her, but the blast never reached. It dissolved midair. Consumed by the glowing shield that spread from her body, Daniel's eyes widened. "You're stopping their fire." Her voice trembled as she pushed harder. "Not for long." The soldiers regrouped, their weapons charging stronger. The commander barked an order, and heavy cannons unfolded from the ships. Their barrels glowed with deadly energy. Daniel pulled Lyra back behind a rock. "Can you stop that?" She shook. Her head, fear filling her silver eyes. "Not alone." Daniel gritted his teeth. "Then we do it together." He grabbed her hands, pressing them against his burned arm, the one she had healed before. Her light surged at his touch, flowing into him, wrapping him in warmth. His chest burned, but not with pain, with power. For the first time, Daniel felt her energy inside him, alive, pulsing, ready to explode. The cannons fired. Daniel roared, lifting his arm. A wave of light burst from his body, merging with Lyra's. The blast struck the canyon wall, shattering stone, sending a storm of fire and rock crashing into the advancing soldiers. The Empire's line broke. Screams filled the canyon. Ships shook under the force. Daniel fell to one knee, his breath ragged. Lyra knelt beside him, her glow dimming, her body trembling. "You're linked to me," she whispered. Daniel gave a weak smile. "Guess I'm not clean either." But the fight wasn't over. The commander still stood, his armor gleaming, his weapon massive. He stepped forward through the chaos, aiming straight at Lyra. Daniel pushed himself up, but his legs shook. He had nothing left. The commander's weapon glowed, then fired. Lyra raised her hands. The blast met her light, colliding in a storm of fire and power. The ground split. The canyon roared. Daniel staggered forward, shouting her name. "Lyra!" Her body shook violently, the marks on her skin burning white. With a cry, she released everything. The light exploded outward, brighter than the sun. Soldiers vanished. In the blast, the commander screamed, his weapon tearing apart. The Empire's ships cracked and fell, crashing into the desert like broken toys. Silence followed. Dust rained down. The canyon glowed faintly with the echo of her power. Daniel blinked. Through the haze, bodies of soldiers lay scattered. The ships burned. The Empire's force was broken, and in the middle of it all stood Lyra, her body glowing faintly, her knees buckling. Daniel caught her before she fell. Her silver eyes were half closed, her voice weak. "It burns," she whispered. Daniel held her tight, his voice steady despite the fear in his chest. "Then let it burn me too. We're in this together." Her lips curved in the faintest smile before she closed her eyes. Daniel looked at the smoking battlefield, at the broken ships, at the bodies of those who had hunted them. The war had begun. And it was only the two of them.